Watch this: when you're stressed, a reason to stop worrying forever. Let's get real for a second. Right now, you're carrying a weight. Maybe it's an upcoming deadline, a relationship struggle, financial pressure, or simply that nagging feeling that you're not doing enough. Stress is everywhere, creeping into our minds like an unwelcome guest, whispering worst-case scenarios and making us feel like if we don't constantly worry, then things will spiral out of control. But here's the paradox: the more we stress, the less control we actually have. Think about it: when has worrying ever solved a problem? Has panicking ever made a situation better? Stress convinces us that it's necessary, that without it, we'd be careless, unprepared, or doomed to failure. But what if stress is nothing more than a trick of the mind, a survival mechanism that's become outdated in the modern world? Let's break this down logically. Stress is, at its core, a response to uncertainty. Our brains evolved to fear uncertainty because, in the past, uncertainty often meant danger. If you didn't know where your next meal was coming from or whether a predator was lurking nearby, you had every reason to be on high alert. But today, most of the things we stress about are not life-threatening. They are social, financial, or existential fears, things that exist in the mind more than in reality. And yet, our bodies react to these modern worries the same way they would react to a lion chasing us. Our hearts race, our muscles tense, our thoughts scatter. We enter fight or flight mode over an email, an exam, or a conversation we're dreading. This is where the absurdity of stress reveals itself. We are running from threats that exist only in our imagination. But let's go deeper. Why do we stress in the first place? If we strip everything down, stress is a form of resistance. It is the mind's refusal to accept the present moment as it is. When you worry about the future, you are rejecting uncertainty. When you stress over the past, you are rejecting what has already happened. Stress is, quite literally, an argument with reality. And here's the thing about reality: it always wins. No matter how much we resist, the present moment is what it is. The future is unknown. The past is unchangeable. So why do we keep fighting battles that we cannot win?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. If stress is resistance to reality, then peace is acceptance of it. Think about the most peaceful people you know, the ones who seem unshaken by chaos, who remain calm in the face of uncertainty. What do they have in common? They have let go of the illusion of control. They understand that life is unpredictable, that setbacks are inevitable, that things rarely go exactly as planned. And instead of fighting this truth, they embrace it. They trust that whatever happens, they will handle it. They don't waste energy worrying about things they cannot change. They don't let stress dictate their actions. And because of this, they live lighter, freer lives. Now ask yourself, what would your life look like if you truly accepted uncertainty? If you stopped trying to control everything and simply allowed things to unfold? Imagine how much mental space you would free up. Imagine how much energy you would save. Imagine waking up every day with the deep knowing that, no matter what happens, you will be okay. Doesn't that sound like freedom? But let's be honest, letting go of stress isn't easy. We've been conditioned to believe that stress is necessary, that without it, we'd become lazy or indifferent. But let me ask you this: does stress actually make you more productive? Or does it just create the illusion of productivity while draining your energy and clouding your judgment. True effectiveness comes not from stress, but from clarity. And clarity comes from a calm mind. So here's your challenge. For the next 24 hours, observe your stress without engaging with it. The next time you feel tension rising, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this stress helping me in any way? Or is it just noise? If it's just noise, let it go. Remind yourself that you don't have to solve every problem in this moment, but you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to take one step at a time. Because at the end of the day, stress is a habit. And like any habit, it can be unlearned. The only question is, are you willing to let go? The art of letting go, how surrender leads to true freedom if you think about it. Most of the pain we experience in life isn't caused by events themselves, but by our resistance to them. We suffer not because things happen, but because we believe they shouldn't have happened that way. We hold on to expectations, plans, and ideas of how life is supposed to be, and when reality doesn't match those mental blueprints, we resist. We become frustrated, anxious, or heartbroken not because life has failed us, but because we refuse to let go of the version of life we imagined. But what if the key to peace isn't in controlling life, but in surrendering to it? Surrender is often misunderstood. People think it means giving up, becoming passive, or resigning to whatever happens. But surrender is not inaction, it's the deepest form of action. It's the ability to engage fully with life without being attached to outcomes. It's the wisdom of knowing when to push forward and when to step back, when to fight and when to flow. It's the realization that control is an illusion, and that the tighter we grip onto things, the more they slip through our fingers. Consider this. Think about the times in your life when things didn't go as planned. The job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that fell through. At the time, it probably felt like a setback, like something was being taken from you. But looking back, can you see how those moments led you to something else, something unexpected but necessary? How often has life surprised you with something better than what you originally wanted? The truth is, we are often terrible at predicting what's best for us. We think we know what we need, but our vision is limited. Life has a way of unfolding in ways that, in the moment, seem unfair or confusing, but in hindsight, make perfect sense. So why do we resist? Why do we cling to control when, time and time again, we've seen that life moves in its own way, regardless of our plans? The answer is fear. We fear the unknown because it threatens our sense of security. We fear change because it forces us to adapt. We fear letting go because we believe that if we loosen our grip, everything will fall apart. But what if the opposite is true? What if, by letting go, we actually gain more? What if surrendering isn't about losing control, but about realizing we never needed control in the first place? Imagine a river. The water flows effortlessly, moving around obstacles, finding the path of least resistance. It doesn't fight against the rocks, it doesn't try to control its course. It simply flows. Now imagine someone desperately trying to swim against the current, exhausting themselves, struggling to force their way upstream. This is what resistance looks like. This is what stress does to us. It makes us fight against life, wasting energy on battles we don't need to fight. Surrender, on the other hand, is like learning to float. It's trusting that life is carrying you in the right direction, even if you don't understand the path in the moment. Now, ask yourself, what are you holding on to that is causing you unnecessary stress? Is it an expectation? A fear? A past mistake? A future worry? What would happen if you simply released it? Would the world end, or would you finally feel free? Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop clinging. It means you stop trying to force things and start allowing them to unfold. It means you replace resistance with trust. And trust, when deeply understood, is the most powerful state of being. But how do we cultivate this trust? How do we train ourselves to surrender when our minds are wired to seek control? The answer is presence. The only moment that truly exists is now. The past is a memory, the future is a projection, but now this moment is real. And in this moment, if you look closely, you'll see that there is no real problem. There is only what is. Most of our stress comes from living in the mental constructs of past and future, rather than in the reality of now. When you are fully present, stress dissolves, because stress cannot exist without time. So here's a thought experiment. For just a few moments, let go of everything. Let go of who you think you need to be. Let go of everything you're trying to control. Let go of the need to have all the answers. Just be here. Breathe. Feel the weight lifting off your shoulders. This is what freedom feels like. Not the absence of problems, but the absence of resistance. Life will continue to unfold, with or without your stress. The only question is, will you fight it, or will you flow with it? The mind's illusions, how perception creates unnecessary suffering. Everything you experience, your fears, your stress, your worries, exists entirely in your mind. This isn't to say that real challenges don't exist, but rather that our interpretation of events is what determines our suffering. Two people can face the exact same situation and experience it in completely different ways. One sees a failure as the end of the world, the other sees it as a lesson. One sees uncertainty as terrifying, the other sees it as an adventure. The difference isn't in the external event, it's in the mind's perception of it. So here's the question: how much of your stress is real, and how much of it is a story you've told yourself? The mind is a storyteller, constantly weaving narratives about what is happening, what might happen, and what should have happened. Most of these stories are based on assumptions, fears, and past conditioning rather than reality itself. We assume the worst when we don't have all the information. We project past pain onto future situations. We mistake our thoughts for facts. And because the mind is so powerful, these imagined scenarios can feel just as real as actual events. But if you take a step back, you'll realize that most of what you stress about never actually happens. Think about all the times you've worried about something that never came true. Think about the nights you lost sleep over hypothetical disasters that never materialized. The mind creates suffering by convincing us that our fears are inevitable, when in reality, they are just passing clouds in the sky of awareness. But let's go even deeper. Not only does the mind create unnecessary suffering, but it also traps us in a false sense of identity. We believe that we are our thoughts, that the voice in our head is who we truly are. But have you ever stopped to observe that voice? The one that constantly comments on everything, that replays past mistakes, that invents future problems. Who is listening to that voice? If you can hear your thoughts, then by definition, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. This realization is profound because it means you don't have to believe everything your mind tells you. You don't have to get lost in the stories of fear, stress, and self-doubt. You can simply observe them like watching clouds pass across the sky, knowing that they are temporary and not a reflection of reality. So here's a radical idea. What if stress isn't something that happens to you, but something you participate in? What if, without your constant engagement, stress would have no power? Imagine stress as a fire that can only burn if you keep adding fuel. The fuel is your belief in the thoughts that create stress. The moment you stop feeding those thoughts, stop identifying with them, stop reacting to them, the fire dies out. This doesn't mean ignoring real problems. It means approaching life from a place of clarity instead of panic. How would your life change if you no longer believed every stressful thought that crossed your mind? If you could see worry for what it really is, an illusion, a mental habit, not a reflection of reality? What if, instead of reacting to every negative thought, you simply let it pass, knowing that thoughts are just thoughts, not truths? This is the foundation of inner peace, the ability to see through the illusions of the mind and remain grounded in reality. Not the imagined future, not the unchangeable past, but this moment right here as it is. Stress is not something that life imposes on you, it's something your mind creates and sustains. And the moment you stop fueling it, you are free. The only question is, are you willing to let go of the illusion? The ultimate freedom, choosing peace no matter what happens. If you've made it this far, you're beginning to see a profound truth. Stress is not an external force, but an internal reaction. It is not life that makes you suffer, but the way you interpret life. And if stress is created in the mind, then it can also be dissolved in the mind. This means that no matter what happens, no matter how chaotic, uncertain, or challenging life becomes, you always have a choice. You can either resist what is happening and suffer, or you can accept it and find peace. This is the ultimate freedom, the realization that your inner state is not dictated by external circumstances, but by your own perspective. But let's address the fear that often arises when we talk about letting go of stress. People worry that if they stop stressing, they'll stop caring. That without worry, they'll become passive, indifferent, unmotivated. But this is another illusion of the mind. True peace doesn't make you numb, it makes you powerful. When your mind is free from unnecessary stress, you think more clearly. When you are not consumed by worry, you take better actions. When you stop wasting energy on resisting reality, you have more energy to actually shape it. Letting go of stress doesn't mean giving up on life, it means showing up fully, but without the burden of fear. So here's the final challenge. The next time something doesn't go your way, instead of immediately reacting with stress, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what if this is happening for me, not to me? What if this challenge is not an obstacle, but an opportunity? Because every situation, no matter how difficult, contains a lesson. Every setback contains the seed of growth. And every moment, no matter how uncertain, is an invitation to choose peace instead of panic. Life is unpredictable. You will face difficulties. You will experience loss. Plans will fall apart. The people will disappoint you. But none of these things have the power to take away your peace unless you give them that power. The world outside you will always be in flux, but the world inside you can remain steady. You can be the eye of the storm, the calm in the chaos, the unwavering presence in the midst of uncertainty. And once you realize this, stress loses its grip. You no longer have to carry the unnecessary weight of worry. You no longer have to fight against the inevitable. You can simply flow with life, knowing that no matter what happens, you will be okay. Because in the end, peace isn't something you find. It's something you choose, and you can choose it right now. So the question is, will you?